Hello, I'm Tracy Burt of the Treasure Box Club, and I am so excited that you have joined me for this class, Creative Canvases. This is a class that I'm reteaching that I took from Tim Holtz and Cheryl Darrow this past summer. It is my favorite class I've ever taken because the project is just so beautiful. You're going to start with this simple frame from IKEA, and by the time we finish, it's just going to be gorgeous, and you're not going to be able to wait to find a place in your home to display it. Once you open your frame and take off all the packaging, you'll see you've got your frame. It has an inner frame, which gives us the depth we need for the project, and then there's the glass. And all of this section you can just set aside. And then the back you can set aside till the end as well. What we are going to do first is work on the mat. Now this you're just going to be using as a piece of scrap paper to put your centerpiece on. But first we're going to cover the mat with stickers from your salvage sticker packet. Now you've got an entire package, and you can use any of the stickers that you like. There are lots of pages of letters and numbers, different letters, clocks, compasses, bingo type looking letters. The only thing you need to save is one clock face, one of the medium-sized clock faces. Everything else is fair game, so use everything you want. The more that you layer, it doesn't need to be right on there. You can just really make a collage. And the more that you layer and have different heights for surfaces, the more when you go back we're going to be sanding, and you'll get a much more distressed finish. And I'll show you mine when it's a little further along. Okay, now I have totally covered my mat with the stickers. I have one tiny little hole there, and when I cut one of these off, I'm going to fill it in with that. Don't really need to, though, because you're going to be inking in a little bit, so really I could just leave it. But the next step, once you have it covered like this, is to go through and trim off all the excess. And one thing I wanted to show you, and likely this will get covered up by my canvases, but I might be able to see some of it when I'm done. If you want, you can work some little initials in there. I've put TBC here for Treasure Box Club in 2010 because the class is this year. And then a nod to remember when, which is where I'm teaching the class up here with the RW. And again, it might end up being a waste of time because it might be covered up, but I figured why not give it a shot. Okay, now that you're to this point and have your letters trimmed off, the next thing to do is sanding. But if you'll notice, this is not perfect, and it doesn't matter because when you sand, you're going to be able to even that off, and it'll look great and distressed. You can sand just the edges, but what I did and what we did in the class is to sand the edges and then across the top too. And then you'll get some great distress going on the letters, and where it's sanded you're going to be able to get more ink on. Now that you've got your mat all sanded, the next step is inking, and you can use any color that you'd like to use, or multiple colors. On the one I made at the class I took from Tim Holtz, I used the broken china. I'd like this one to be different just because I don't want them to be the same since I'm going again. And I think I will go with peeled paint this time. But any color scheme would work fine. That's a green, so I'm going to grab my green blending tool. One thing to keep in mind is I like the blending tools for blending. You just start off and then come on. You don't want to just stamp down because then you're going to get the image of, you're going to have a rectangle stamp of green. That's what you're going to end up with instead of nice blended ink, which is what you want. And this mat is great to work on, the craft mat, because this ink that you end up leaving up, you can get back on your ink tool, on your blending tool, and go ahead and make use of it. And you'll just do that all around the frame. You can use just one color or two. Now that I'm looking at this, I think I might go back and add some purple when I'm finished with the green and see how that looks. Alright, now that I have my frame all inked up, the next step is going to be adding the center square. You've received a section of a tin looking tile from the hardware store that's really made to go on your backsplash or your ceiling, but we are going to put it in here to be the rest of our background. So what you want to do is just center it like that, then flip it over and tape it down. So at this point your background is finished and you can just set it aside, and we are going to start working on the canvases.